The more reliable you are at work, the less money you will make over your lifetime. I know that sounds wrong. Stay with me. I'm going to prove it to you. You show up on time. You do the work nobody else wants to touch. You don't complain. You don't cause friction. You stay late when it matters. And every year, you tell yourself the same thing. This is how you build something. This is how you get ahead. That belief feels responsible. It feels like the financially smart play. It isn't. Here's what's actually happening underneath all that reliability. You are being quietly, systematically used, not by a villain, not by someone making a deliberate choice to hurt you, by a system, a financial system built inside your workplace, one that rewards your compliance, extracts your output, and pays you just enough to keep you grateful. And the worst part? The better you get at your job, the harder that system works against you. My name is Ricky, and I spend way too much time thinking about how work and money actually connect. Not the surface stuff, not save 20% or max your 401k. The psychological traps, the behavioral patterns, the invisible math that costs people decades, not dollars. If you work hard, play by the rules, and still feel like you're not moving forward financially, this video is for you. This isn't a productivity hack, it's a financial reframe. Let's get into it. Think about the most reliable person at your job, the one who never misses a deadline, the one managers call when something actually needs to get done, the one the whole team quietly leans on. Now ask yourself one question. Are they the highest paid person on that team? Probably not, and that is not an accident. Here's the thing about being indispensable. Most people think indispensable means valuable. It doesn't. Not financially, not in the way you're imagining. Indispensable means something very specific inside a company. It means you are load-bearing. You are the wall they cannot knock down without the ceiling falling. And here's what nobody tells you about load-bearing walls. You never renovate them, you never move them, you work around them. That's you. Now let's talk about the actual math, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. The average employee who stays at the same company receives a raise of about 3% per year. 3%. Most years, inflation runs close to that. Some years, it runs above it. So in real terms, in purchasing power terms, you are working harder every year and standing completely still financially. Meanwhile, the person who left your company last year and took a role somewhere else? Research on compensation consistently shows that job switchers earn between 10 and 20% more than employees who stay. Let that sit. You stayed loyal, you stayed reliable, you stayed late. The math punished you for it. But it's not just the raise you didn't get, it's what that missing raise compounds into. Let me give you the actual number, not a vague gesture at a big number, the real one. Say you're earning $60,000 a year. A 3% raise brings you to $61,800. A 15% move brings you to $69,000. That's a $7,200 gap in year one. Now invest that gap difference every year for 10 years at a conservative 7% return. That gap becomes approximately $105,000. $105,000. Not because you made a bad investment, not because you failed at something, because you were good at your job and stayed put. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Companies don't underpay reliable employees by accident. They do it because the incentive structure makes it completely rational for them. Think about it from their side for 1 second. Why would they pay more for something they already have? You're already there, already performing, already proven you'll stay without being asked. The negotiating leverage you had day one, when they were competing to hire you, when you were still unknown, when they wanted to impress you, that leverage disappears the moment you get comfortable. And comfort, financially, is one of the most expensive states you can live in. So now you see the mechanism. But understanding a system isn't the same as escaping it. Because by the time most people figure this out, something else has already happened. Something quieter. Something that takes much longer to undo. You become a character. Not a person, a character. Inside your workplace, inside your manager's mental model, inside the organizational structure nobody shows you but everybody operates from, you have a role.
You are the reliable one, the safe one, the one we don't have to worry about. That sounds like a compliment. It feels like a compliment. It isn't. Here's what it actually means when an organization stops worrying about you. It means you've been categorized, filed. Your ceiling has been quietly decided, not in a meeting you attended, not in a performance review, in 100 small conversations and accumulated assumptions that happened without you in the room. And here's the part that stings. You built that ceiling yourself. Every time you said yes when you should have negotiated, every time you solved a problem quietly instead of making the solution visible, every time you absorbed more work without ever attaching a dollar figure to what that work was actually worth, you were sending a signal. The signal said, I will keep performing regardless of what you give me. They heard it. Now, let's talk about identity, because this is where it gets truly expensive. There's a concept in behavioral economics called identity-based decision-making. It means this: once you see yourself a certain way, you make financial choices that protect that self-image, even when those choices are actively hurting you. So if you see yourself as the loyal employee, the team player, the person who doesn't make it about money, you will consistently make financial choices that reinforce that story. You won't negotiate hard. It feels disloyal. You won't look for other offers. It feels ungrateful. You won't push back when your scope expands without your compensation expanding with it. It feels petty. And every single one of those moments costs you money. Real money, compounding money, future money. Here's a number worth sitting with. The average person works around 90,000 hours over their career. 90,000 hours. If even 20% of those hours were spent inside an identity trap, performing work that wasn't valued or compensated at its actual rate, that's 18,000 hours. Think about what your hour is worth to you. Even at a modest rate, that number should make you genuinely uncomfortable. Now, here's the part that feels unfair. You didn't choose this consciously. Nobody sat you down and said, here's how to systematically undervalue yourself for 30 years. It happened in steps, in cultural conditioning, in the way your parents talked about work, in the way school rewarded compliance over negotiation, in the way you were taught that asking for more was somehow inappropriate. You were trained to be good. Good at following instructions, good at meeting expectations, good at not creating friction. And that training transferred directly into your financial life without you ever noticing. The good student became the good employee. The good employee became the underpaid one. And here's why this is a trap and not just a mistake. Traps are self-reinforcing. Think about the last Sunday night you felt that low-level anxiety for Monday morning. That quiet dread sitting in your chest before the week even starts. That feeling is the trap telling you it owns you. Your rent assumes this salary. Your car payment assumes this salary. Your entire financial architecture, your savings rate, your sense of what's realistic, all of it calibrated to a number set by a system working against you. So even when you understand what's happening, leaving feels terrifying. Not because you can't do better, because your whole financial life is resting on the trap you're standing in. That's not weakness. That's just how traps work. Okay, stop. Here's the thing. You cannot fix a problem you've been told is a virtue. That's the whole game. They told you reliability was the goal. Loyalty was the strategy. Keeping your head down was how you built something real. And you believed it because it came from people who genuinely cared about you. Parents, teachers, managers who liked you and meant well. None of them were lying to you. They were passing on a system that benefits the organization, not the individual inside it. Here's the reframe. Your financial life is not a reward for good behavior. It is an outcome of negotiated value. Read that again. Not a reward, an outcome of negotiated value. The market does not give you what you deserve. It gives you what you ask for, what you can demonstrate, and what you're willing to walk away from if you don't receive it. That is the actual equation. and it has nothing to do with how hard you work inside one single organization. There are two types of financial players in the employment world. The first type sees their job as a relationship. They invest in loyalty. They believe the longer they stay, the more they'll eventually be rewarded. They optimize for internal approval. The second type sees their job as a market position. They track their market rate. They collect external data. They treat their career like a portfolio, not a marriage. One of those players earns significantly more over a lifetime. It is not the loyal one. And here's what the research actually shows. The people who accumulate the most wealth through earned income aren't always the most talented people in their field. They are the most mobile. Not flaky, mobile. There's a real difference. Flaky is leaving before you've built something worth taking. Mobile is leaving after you've created real value and before the organization has fully captured it. That might mean 18 months into a role. It might mean the week after a major project ships and your name is genuinely attached to a result. The timing is the strategy. Here's the quiet part. The exact moment you become genuinely excellent at something inside a company, your value to the external market peaks. You have proof now. You have results. You have a story you can tell clearly. That is precisely when most people do nothing. They sit in the peak. They feel secure. They enjoy being recognized for something finally. And then the peak flattens. The skills age. The market moves forward. And the leverage window, the negotiating window, the external offer window quietly closes. So here's the practical shift. Stop measuring your financial progress by your last raise. Start measuring it by the gap between what you currently earn and what the market would pay you today if you applied for your role somewhere else tomorrow. That gap is your real financial position. If you don't know that number, you are not just career blind, you are financially blind. And you cannot close a gap you refuse to measure. Here's a simple practice. 3 things every 6 months. First, look up the current market rate for your exact role in your city. Use real sources, Glassdoor.com, LinkedIn Salary, Levels.fy if you're in tech. Don't estimate, get an actual number. Most people skip this because knowing the number makes the discomfort real. That discomfort is exactly why you need to know it. Second, write down 3 measurable outcomes you delivered in the last 6 months. Not tasks, not responsibilities, outcomes. Revenue you touched, costs you reduced, problems you solved that had a dollar value attached to them. If you can't name 3, that's the real work. Most people skip this because their identity as a team player makes individual credit feel uncomfortable. But you cannot negotiate with feelings. You negotiate with evidence. Third, have one external conversation. A recruiter, a peer at another company, someone outside your organization who can tell you honestly where your skills sit in the current market. Not to quit, not to threaten anyone, just to stay calibrated. Most people skip this because it feels like betrayal. That feeling right there is the identity trap activating in real time. Here's the reality. The most financially secure people are not the most loyal employees. They are the most self-aware ones. They know what they're worth. They know when they're undervalued. They know the difference between investing in a role and donating to an organization. And they never confuse comfort with progress. Let me close with this. Think about the last time you got a raise that genuinely changed something. Not a 3% cost of living adjustment, not a bump that disappeared before you noticed it. An actual step change, a number that gave you real options. For most people, that moment either hasn't come yet, or it came when they changed jobs, not when they stayed. That is not a coincidence. That is the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. You have been optimizing for the wrong thing. Not because you're bad at money, not because you're lazy or naive or not smart enough to figure this out. Because you were taught that being good was the whole strategy.
And being good is a starting point. It is not a financial plan. What you do with the value you create, where you take it, who you let price it, and whether you ever demand that it be priced correctly, that is the strategy. The trap was never that you worked hard. The trap was believing the work would speak for itself.
It won't. You have to. If this is how you want to think about money, not the surface stuff, not the generic advice, subscribe. That's what this channel is.